Hey, everybody. Welcome to a very special episode of the On Film with Kevin McCarthy podcast. And today I'm honored to present a conversation that I had with Kate Hudson, who's nominated for Best Actress at the Academy Awards this year for her brilliant performance in Song Sung Blue. And weirdly enough, this is actually kind of cool. Kate is actually the first guest to return to my show. This show started back in August of 2025, and I've had a lot of amazing guests on the show, but Kate Hudson is now the first person to be a return guest. And that's because back in December of 2025, I moderated a Q&A at the DGA with Hugh Jackman, her co-star from Song Sung Blue, and her writer-director, Craig Brewer. And we talked all about her amazing performance in Song Sung Blue. And because that conversation, and I had so much fun talking to Kate, I wanted to invite Kate back for a deeper discussion into her process. And this is not the first time that Kate's been nominated for an Academy Award. She's got a nomination now for Song Sung Blue as a Best Actress, but she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress 25 years ago in Cameron Crowe's Almost Famous. We all know the character Penny Lane, remarkable performance. And we talk a lot about, in this interview, her jumping in and out of different genres and romantic comedy and horror and all these different genres that she's been in as an actress, but also just her process, how she finds her way into characters and more. And we speak about her parents, obviously, and the legacy of filmmaking and movies and what movies and music mean. And we also talk technically about harmonies and finding song as well. And this conversation is going to start kind of mid-conversation because we started speaking to each other as we sat down. So I'm going to let you into the conversation here. Here is Best Actress nominee Kate Hudson talking about Song Sung Blue and more. Take a look.
It's so fun to do this right now because we're not selling the movie anymore, even though all of this does obviously bring attention to the movie. We're actually talking about process.
Yeah.
And that's like so much fun to talk about when you love making movies, or if you are like love talking about movies or exploring filmmaking. It's awesome to be able to do it that way. You know?
That's the whole point. That's the whole reason I created the show, is because I grew up watching like DVD features. So like I learned about filmmaking through like Lord of the Rings, like Peter Jackson's like behind the scenes. And I'm like, I learned what a first AD is. I learned what, what the cinematographer is doing, the lighting, like the camera assistants. It's just remarkable. So
well, did you ever want to be on set?
Always. That's like my dream.
Well, so what do you want? Well, so what are you doing here?
Well, I think part of it's more of like, I don't know if I have the talent to be a director, but I'm just really fascinated in what you're talking about, which is the process, which is exactly why I started the show. Is to
how can you say that about yourself? Maybe you're incredibly talented as a director.
I don't know.
You got to try it.
I've made short films.
Just make a short. Yeah. Oh, so you have.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm not the most like confident person on the planet. It probably comes from being like bullied a lot in high school and stuff like that. So like I just really, I would love to make films. And
I think the great thing about you saying that is that, it's really hard to make a movie.
Yeah.
And I think there's this idea, like when you see something that's good or you see something you like, that it's like, oh, like it's just a movie. It's like, no, it's really hard to get a movie made, let alone make one that's great.
Yeah.
And when you are in it and you see it and you love it, you start to understand that differently.
Yeah. I just remember watching films differently as a kid. Like there's like this separation that I have where I can immerse myself in the story, not lose my suspension of disbelief, but also be curious about how a shot was done. Like even in this film, there's like these brilliant shots that Amy does where she'll be out of focus and we'll zoom into you, like when you're at the meeting and you come in focus in that moment. And there's a narrative reason why Craig and Amy do that. But the timing, I think about you in that moment. Okay, you have to be aware of when that camera's now in focus so you can start your dialogue.
Right.
It's like hitting a mark.
Yes,
in
it
a
is.
way.
Well, I always say that there's two relationships you have to the camera. One, they don't exist.
Yeah.
And the other is they're a part of the performance.
Yeah.
And like when you're working with certain types of filmmakers, the camera and what the camera is and what it's exposing is important to what you're trying to actually portray as an actor.
Yeah. I mean, I think about like John's work on Almost Famous, John Toll, and then obviously what Amy does here, 35 millimeter versus digital.
Yes.
That's obviously another
Whole other world
element as well.
I miss film. I miss the like moments in between where they're like, you know, where they're checking the gate and changing the film rolls, and you get to sit there for a bit, and the high stakes of performance, not getting it right. You know, film is money. You know, we don't have that anymore. We can shoot, you know, digital all day long, but like those film rolls cost a lot of money. Like you had to show up and hit your mark and get it right, or else there was more than just a problem with the director. There's a problem with the budget. You're like, how many rolls of film are we going to roll on this girl, you know?
Well, it reminds me, and so I rewatched Almost Famous and this film back to back, essentially. Almost Famous last night and Song Sung Blue again this morning. And what you're saying just now reminds me of that shot when you say what kind of beer in Almost Famous. The shot is so incredible, the way you say it, the way the tears fall, the way you start to smile. And I just imagine shooting that on 35, they had to get the timing right. You had to know exactly where to be. But I'm wondering, like, even something like that, how precise and precious of a moment that was for you, having to shoot that on 35, and like what that moment
that whole scene was really interesting because at the time we were shooting in this location that we had 2 days in, but Cameron had shot, we had this scene that I don't think much of it ended up actually even in the movie, but we had a 4-page scene to get in like a quarter or a half of a day before we were leaving that location. So Cameron was under a lot of pressure. We were losing the light. John Toll doesn't like to lose the light. And we were rushing, and I remember going like, okay, just focus on like what I'm trying to do here, because I felt a little bit like there was it was like chaos around me kind of. And Cameron wasn't totally satisfied with that scene when we shot it. He became more satisfied with it when he saw it in dailies.
Really?
Because he was, you know, surrounded by a ton of pressure. It was a lot happening at that moment. And
your smile in that moment breaks me. It just breaks me when she smiles.
It's such a great scene.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's such a great scene. And as even as young as I was, could recognize a great scene. When you read it, you're like, oh, I can't wait to shoot that scene. Also the movement. And I remember like, you know, Cameron wanting me to like walk around him, and sort of the dance that I played, the sort of manipulation of Penny Lane and trying to pretend like everything's fine and everything's okay. And her mask, when her mask falls, how that, you know, all those things that you work on and process, right? Like that we're doing behind the scenes, but then seeing it play out. And then the John Toll glow, man, like that moment, like when you see that shot and the back of my curls are kind of like blown out with that John Toll light. It's like the magic of filmmaking is everybody together making that one thing happen. And the pressure of the actor is to make sure that when everybody's set up and has got it all great, right and perfect for you, that you can actually like rise to the occasion. You know?
Yeah.
It's kind of makes what whoop.
It's okay.
No, the ears in me are like, stop humming. You know, it's like the stuff you get addicted to as an actor.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, process is something that I really want to dive into, because the way into a character has to be interesting, right? So you have a script, and we'll talk about Claire, and we'll talk about, I want to talk about all the different characters you've played, but specifically, there are things that I would imagine help you find the person. I remember Denzel Washington spoke about trying a character's shoes on once.
Yeah.
And that helped him find the character. And I always think of the movie Strangers on a Train, the Hitchcock film. The movie opens with just the character's shoes walking to the train. And we know exactly who those guys are by the way they walk before we even see their face or hear them talk.
So fun.
And so when I think about like Almost Famous, for example, we're introduced with the glasses on, kind of her mask in a way.
Yeah.
And the glasses at the end when she goes to grab them when that last shot it's incredible. But talk about those little details, even with Song Sung Blue. Are there consistencies that you see throughout your career that are your ways into the people you play? And I know every character is different.
Yeah.
But is there something that's kind of an anchor?
Great question. I think every it's always a little bit different. Like it has changed. It's evolved over the years. You know, I've learned different tricks. I've stolen other people's tricks. You know, you see how someone else does something, and you're like,
Which one have you stolen? Like what's one you saw and go, I'm gonna do that.
I mean, I think I remember watching. I was talking about this like on Le Divorce. Naomi, before she did this very intense scene, was like working her body. She was running, and then she like was sort of hitting her chest a little bit. And I was like, that's interesting. Like, I like that hitting the chest thing. It sort of gets the adrenaline going a little bit, in a nice way. It wasn't like crazy. She was really like actively in this scene where she could have chosen to just start the scene like that. She actually kind of gave herself a little bit of room. I remember I was 21 and I was like, oh, I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start like doing a little run before a scene where I might be a little bit out of breath, or if I need more energy, like to actually use my physical body like beforehand. Just like little things like that. And then of course the big things are actual acting coaches or teachers. Like I remember working with Ivana Chubbuck, and I love her when she talks about substitution. So sometimes if you can't quite understand the connection with the character on the page, what and who does that bring up for you in real life? And it doesn't have to be necessarily a lover. It could actually be a parent, right? And like what that feeling is, or what that feeling it's evoking in you, you actually substitute what's happening in front of you with someone in your own personal life that has created that type of experience or feeling for you. Substitution's a really interesting thing to work on ahead of time.
Can it be dangerous though too? Like if you like mix your real life into the emotions of it?
Not for me, because
Yeah.
I can separate myself pretty well.
Yeah.
No, I think it's more about like sometimes you could be doing a scene that has with someone that has like where you're supposed to be really very interested in that person. But in my mind, I'm seeing, I'm like almost like a psychic. Like I already know what that person's going to say. And I'm in my mind thinking, I'm listening intently, but in my mind, because of the character and because of what I'm trying to portray, I'm like, no, she's psychic. She knows, she's just waiting to be validated. So like you could be thinking about something completely differently, and yet it's coming across like that character's intense interest in somebody. So like there's all, right? So that sometimes works. And for me, Larry Moss, another great teacher that I've had and had the privilege of working with, he is like read. Understand your material, understand the writing, honor the writing, especially if it's a great writer, you know. Honor it, and do the work ahead of time. There's a lot of like imagery, color, literally color, animal sort of work or instinct, like body language when it comes to certain animals and certain moments.
Oh, interesting.
Recognizing like where you're coming from as to where you're going in each scene, in every scene.
Like you think about how an animal would move, like, and you use that as the way the character would, like, can you give me an example of like
in Music, this movie that I did, when I get really wasted, it's like my head feels more like a bull. Right. So like if you're going to think about body movement, it would be like when you get angry, it's like your head like kind of rears like a bull when you're wasted, you know? So like, what is that? Like a bull that's about to charge.
Wow. I mean, it's
really fun.
It's so interesting.
It's just fun.
What do you have any other animal examples? I remember like, I mean, I know actors have talked about like, I have a cat, for example, is the way my character would be. Like, do you like Claire, what kind of animal do you think?
I didn't do much animal work.
No animal work for Claire.
No, I did do some color stuff, but
really? Like, what do you mean like color? Like, what do you mean? Like associating colors with emotions?
Right. Like what does like, yeah. Like what's, you know, what's Claire's like, you know, what does, when she sees like light or color, like what's the color that makes her feel like she's like happy, you know, or what does the color feel like when you're, you know, when she's in bed, you know, what is she really seeing when she's looking at the door? What is that door to her? Who walks through that door? Does she want the door to open? If it's Mike, so like anything you're looking at could have an association with something that you're thinking about, even though it's not on the page, you know. It's fun.
I love stuff like this.
I do too.
I mean, to me, that's the whole reason I started this show. I want people to understand these decisions that we might feel subconsciously as an audience. It's all part of the emotional experience. You said something really.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, you have to. It's like the whole point is to do all the work ahead of time and to do all that work so that it feels effortless. You don't want it to feel like, you know, like, wow, I'm looking at the door and I'm waiting for someone. Like that's not why you do all of it up front. You do it so that you're just engaged in the experience of the character, you know?
We did a Q&A at the DGA back in December, and I asked this question about Michael Imperioli's scene when he talks about keeping Buddy Holly alive after 22. And I always think about this movie Babylon, where Brad Pitt and Gene Smart are talking about, like, in 100 years, basically, you're going to come back to life once you're gone. You live forever in cinema, in a way. And I asked you, like, what that meant to you, and you said, when I watch my parents' films, I see their souls on the screen. I'm like, that's so interesting, because to have that ability to connect with your parents at the time they were in their lives. Can you expand a bit on that? And also this idea of interpretation versus impersonation, and like how Hugh Jackman's character will say, I want to be Neil, but I also want to be me.
Yeah.
And so I guess the two part of that question is, like, can you expand a little bit on what you mean by seeing your parents' souls and like in the work? And then, you know, do you feel like you see part of yourself in your characters when you watch them?
I mean, when it comes to my parents, it's like, I think you always bring an element of yourself to the part, you know? And for me, when I look at, I have so much admiration for my parents' work. I think they're brilliant actors. So when I see their work, I see everything that took them away from the family. I see everything that provided the lifestyle that we had and the privilege that we had as kids.
Wow.
I see all the love that they put into their storytelling. I know what was going on behind it, at least when I was alive, you know, when I look at the work from when, you know, I was a young kid. And some movies capture an essence of what that light is that I think most actors and performers, I think, are light beings. And I find that there's something about the way that their energy projects out that is magnetic and you're drawn to it like a light. And I don't think you can learn that. I don't think that's a learned quality. I think that's a gift. And when I see them, I see that, you know, and so to be able to have that forever is such a gift. You know, I get to experience that and see that all the time.
And then your children have the same thing.
Yeah, they'll see their grandparents, they'll see me.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool, you know. And then, of course, a lot of people now have their iPhones and can turn on the home movies all the time. It's, you know, but we get to see something. It's a little bit different because it's not them, but it's their life work. You know what I mean? It's like so much goes into that as a actor from the, like, when you see it from the inside.
For the earlier work before you were born, the obviously you didn't know your parents before you were born. Like, do you catch things about them that obviously like most people don't have access to footage of their parents, like that, you know, that early, like in movie roles.
Yeah,
obviously,
I have
but
the
like,
coolest parents in the world. I mean,
insane.
like how cool are my parents? Like, what do you mean? Like, I'm constantly aware of, like, I look at my mom in shampoo and I'm like, oh.
Yeah,
she is the cutest little button.
Incredible.
And I see
Hal Ashby, by the way.
I know.
Paul Simon did the music for that film, which is
that movie.
Oh, but I mean, how cool. I mean,
and then Kurt, like, think about Kurt Silkwood.
Yeah.
Silkwood, and he's incredible in that movie. The Thing, Escape from New York. I mean, come on. Like, those are my parents.
I mean,
it's like you watch those things and you're like, yeah.
Yeah, they've done some amazing things.
They know what they're doing.
Well, speaking of parents, I find it interesting because you look at your career there. I would imagine that the moment you become a mom, it changes you as an artist. I would imagine it changes the way you emote to your material. You play a mom in Song Sung Blue, and you look at the time period. Like, even I use Almost Famous as kind of like the and obviously going back as well, but 25 years. Do you see a difference between the artist you were before you became a mom and after, and how it affects the material?
I've been a mom my entire adult life.
Yeah.
So I've always been a mom. So I did like a couple movies and then I became a mom.
Wow.
So, I mean, I want to say yes, but the truth is no.
Most of it's been
Most of it, yeah. I mean, I think the thing that happens when you become a mother is you're just like, it like tears your heart out to the point where anything that has anything to do with your kids becomes like an immediate emotional experience versus when you don't have kids and you don't really, really know what that's like, even though you can kind of like feel and understand it maybe. But once you do have kids, it's like nothing tears your heart out like your kids. Like, it's just, life becomes a very different feeling and a very like the stakes in your life become a lot higher when you're raising your children and you love something so much that, you know, you do anything to protect them and keep them safe. Like, that feeling literally, especially for men, especially for the mothers who carry and nurture, it's like, it changes everything, right? So, but then again, I wasn't really playing moms. You know, I was a mom, but I wasn't really
What was the first time you played a mom in a movie? Do you remember?
I think it was, well, Raising Helen, I got kids.
Gary Marshall.
Yeah.
Who directed Overboard.
The best.
I mean,
Gary was the best.
Mother's Day and Raising Helen.
And Raising Helen. I played a mother on Mother's Day. I keep forgetting about that.
That's right.
And I played a mother in Deepwater Horizon.
Yes.
And then I played a mom in Mona Lisa and the Blood Moon.
Does playing a mom in a film ever like teach you anything about being a mom in real life when you play characters who are moms?
No. No, but definitely being a mom for my entire adult life has given me a lot of material for when I'm playing a mom.
I can't imagine. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. Like I watch you in this film, and like your characters are going through a lot of trauma, of course. And there's this beautiful moment when I think you're on the couch and Hugh's character is at the table. And his back is turned to you, and he's talking about how he's not going to be doing karaoke anymore and how much he needs you to be there to do that. And you get up and you console him. And there's this beautiful idea of like bad things happen in our lives, but we push through. And I think that scene to me is so inspiring because I know how hard it is for your character in that moment and what she's dealing with, but for her to get up and go over to him and console him. Can you just speak about like going through emotional sequences in films? And like, I have to imagine it teaches you life perspective when you get to be somebody that you're not, like in the sense of like that. And I don't know, I just found that moment and that idea of her still striving to be the best she can be and find the music again to be really inspirational. And could you just speak about like sequences like that and like the emotional depth of that?
Yeah, and I think it's not just that scene. I think it's really the essence of this movie.
100%,
you know,
yeah.
and what I loved about the script and when I read it is, and I've been thinking about this a lot in terms of like filmmaking and the kinds of films that, you know, there's there's opportunity to make every kind of film out there, like any kind of perspective. Like, this is why we love making movies. There's something about the life affirming movies that sort of hit on the things that when you look at your life and you have an audience and you're looking at your life and you're looking at your family and you're looking at your love stories and you're looking at your passions and things that you do and all the stuff that is like what everybody experiences, the hardships, the tragedies. what is the thing that keeps us moving forward, right? And this movie is all about grit, resilience, and family and love. Like the very things that I think we are all struggling so much with right now. And I've been thinking a lot about this. And I love how, if I wasn't doing this and having these interviews, I don't think I would have reflected on this film or these things as much as I have. And it's so fun to be sort of forced to reflect on it and talk about it. But one of the things I think about in movies is it's so easy for us today to leave, to neglect what it is to fight for something, to like believe in something, to believe in your family, to believe in your partnership, to work hard for something. We live in a time, it's wonderful. People don't have to stay in complicated relationships, but it's a lot easier to leave than it is to stay nowadays.
Yeah.
And I love when you see, I think the thing that hits people more than they want to maybe admit is that relationships and life is hard. But when you have the grit and the resilience to stick with it or to stick with someone or to work through something, the other side of that is really powerful, strong, and beautiful. And it gives everybody else a sense of like safety and love. And
it's like a blanket.
It's like a big blanket.
Yeah.
And unit, family, community, all of these things that we talk a lot about, why everybody's writing these self-help books, why there's so many podcasts about these things. What is it to live a healthy, long, beautiful life? There's something about movies when they hit you in a certain way, and this one in particular, like that scene, when you see it, you're like, oh, when you earn that comfort because you stand by somebody or you get through the hard stuff or you are so in it with that person that like you don't know if you're going to get out of it, but you'll never ever you'll never give up on that person.
Yeah.
When a moment like that, you're like, oh, that's why we work so hard for love. But we need to work at it. So life like hits us really hard with all kinds of things, and some people a lot harder than others. And so when you see movies that kind of are more affirming about you they can be really inspirational, that people can get through it with each other, if they just stick with it. Love that about this movie.
Me too.
Yeah.
So switching gears, I want to geek out a little bit about some technical process things.
Okay.
One of the things we talked about when we were at the DGA was the idea of musicality of dialogue, but also the musicality of the harmonies. The harmonies to me is like that's when they're clicking so much.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you can just talk to me technically about finding harmonies.
Okay.
And because harmony is basically a chord essentially. And obviously you know this, but I'm just curious if you can just speak to the audience about how that works.
I would love to, because I am not a trained singer. So for me, it's all instinct. Whereas some trained singers and people who like have been studying music their whole life, and have like perfect pitch, can know that what the harmony is for anything. For me, it's just finding harmony. And for this movie in particular, we had like a good scratch vocal, but then we went in and it was really about supporting Hugh's voice for me and what harmonies sounded good and where I had freedom to sing and kind of express differently. And so for me with Hugh, it was like his was obviously like we were singing Neil Diamond songs, but for me it was, how do these songs become duets?
Because they weren't recorded that way.
No,
right.
And so we worked with Scott Baumer, who was amazing, our executive, our producer for music, and I went in the studio and we just sort of like played around really. Like it wasn't like anything.
So you were just finding them in the moment.
Yeah. We just went in there and, some are pretty straightforward.
So
Sometimes we sang the same. It wasn't melody. It was just harmony. It was his melody. And then sometimes like Craig was just like, can you try to like riff on something? And then we would just mess around, which was really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking to my wife before I came here and I was like looking at your filmography. Your range is insane. And, I obviously there's the romantic comedies, there's the dramas. My wife was like, tell her the skeleton key is brilliant.
Yes.
Because she was like, her physicality at the end of that film changes with the twist essentially.
Yeah.
She was like, that's such an interesting thing. But the genres you've jumped in and out of are incredible. Like, and I'm wondering if you can just speak to how you find your way in each genre and kind of like, is there a hook that's consistent throughout all of them?
I just try to do the best I can with the work that's put in front of me. You know what I mean? Like I want to do everything. I think every actor does. I think you kind of get into it and you're like, I want to play the female Frankenstein,
Yeah.
So when you get the opportunities, I sort of approach it all the same. Comedy, I like to have a little bit more freedom in, because sometimes with comedy, especially if it's physical comedy, they might have written something on the page, but it just feels and could be a lot funnier or better if you have freedom to maybe shift things a little bit.
Can you give an example?
It's usually in physicality. So like they can write a scene that's about like, oh, and then she falls over the table and then you get in the room and you're like, I don't know if that's going to work for the camera and the scene. So maybe it ends up being a chair, or maybe you don't fall over the table. Maybe you trip over something. Like there's always like or if you have a certain frame and there is no comedy in it and you realize like it would be really funny or it would be great if we could like, if I sat in the seat and it just went down, there's all kinds of like freedom in comedy. And then sometimes you could do it. And I always think that's one of those like comedy writing on the spot, improv, do the scene, do what's written, and then like let comedians go to town. Like let people riff.
You've done incredible romantic comedy, Something Borrowed, obviously Bride Wars, Fool's Gold. I mean, all these amazing films. Is there an art form to the rom-com? Like,
yes.
Like I think it's a lot harder than people think.
I agree with you. I mean, I think the thing is that you can't look at it like making a rom-com. Like you can put that into the genre, but I find that rom-com has sort of also become like female comedy, right? So like if it's a comedy that's around women, it's considered a rom-com. When a rom-com is actually it's a two-hander and it's a male and a female and they're both equal parts, and it's has a specific formula, but the best ones are actually ones that aren't really approached like some sort of formulaic rom-com.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. So like As Good as It Gets, or you look at Sleepless in Seattle, or you look at some of these great kind of big, When Harry Met Sally. Yeah. These are great films that are funny and sad and heartbreaking and well-made and cinematic, with incredible talent, writer, director, actors. So I think the genre can be, there's a certain offshoot of rom-coms that sort of people look at like, oh, it's bright and it's easy and it's, it's sort of like just fits into this formula. But the kind of romantic comedies or romantic films that I like or that I want to be doing are ones that sort of usually break out of the traditional formulaic norm.
Well, they're grounded in real human emotion.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I argue a lot about like comedy being sometimes could be harder than drama, just because like they're both of them are incredibly hard. But I know we got to wrap up. I just want to say congratulations to you on your nomination.
Thank you.
And good luck with everything. And your second Oscar nomination, which is
so exciting.
Remarkable. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. We'll see you again.
Yes.
We'll
definitely.
come back around.
Thank you, Kate.
Thanks.
All right.